about how we can work better to make Nashville safer and more accessible to more people. If anybody's coming in late, it looks like we have a few seats left for members who are here from an invited organization. So if you're here from BPAC, VZAC, Traffic and Parking Commission, you can find an empty seat. Logistically, this is going to be a little bit challenging for me because I'm going to be trying to maintain stack and order, and I don't know some of your names. I can kind of think back to, oh, well, I know which council member sits there, and then I can recognize, it's going to be a little, so please give me a little bit of grace with keeping stack and recognizing people. Also, on the logistical side, here in the chamber, you will need your mic on to be recognized and for the folks watching the live stream to be able to hear you. So there's generally only going to be 1 or 2 mics on at a time. So you will need to participate in the discussion. You will need to kind of raise your hand, let me know that you're wanting to jump in, have a comment, question, anything, and I'll do my best to maintain a good stack. But again, it's going to be a little hard for me because I don't know some folks' names, and I'm going to do my best. If I'm really missing it, maybe just wave your arm at me and let me know that you're feeling like I've not gotten you in the proper order. So restrooms are out here in front of the glass door. There's also restrooms in the main lobby. Snack machines, if anybody, I know it's late in the day, snack machines are down on the ground floor. If you take the main elevators to the ground floor, you'll see them. Coffee, snacks, soda down there. And with that, we'll move to our first agenda item, which is a presentation from Metro Legal on the scope and structure of Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, Vision Zero Advisory Committee, Traffic and Parking Commission, and Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. So I'm going to recognize Metro Legal representative. If you'd please introduce yourself and jump into your presentation.
Sure. Thank you very much.
If you could pull the microphone a little closer, please.
Can you hear me all right? Good afternoon. My name is Ann Mickelson, and I'm an attorney with Metro Legal. And I'm here today to give you what's probably a rather dull presentation about the various responsibilities of the Traffic and Parking Commission, the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, and the Vision Zero Advisory Committee. And then my colleague Margaret Darby will speak briefly about the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. So this is just a really broad overview of all the different, of NDOT itself and the different committees. So there'll be an overview of the responsibilities of the Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure, NDOT, their duties and responsibilities, and then the respective duties and responsibilities of the 3 committees and commissions I just mentioned, as well as a couple of slides on sort of legal limitations that govern all of their work. NDOT has a really broad range of duties and responsibilities granted under the Metropolitan Charter. And these include, and forgive me for just reading this aloud, but there are a lot, and there's a lot of detail here. The design, construction, maintenance, repair, management, and cleaning of roads, highways, streets, alleys, other public places, bridges, viaducts, and other related structures. Construction of transportation capital improvement projects by its own employees when directed by ordinance or the mayor. Making and preparing slides, specifications, estimates, surveys, maps, designs, drawings, and reports as may be requested by council, mayor, departments, or commissions acting with mayoral approval. Supervision of execution and performance of all contracts for NDOT capital improvement projects. Administration and enforcement of all laws, ordinances, and regulations relating to permits and licenses for building in the right-of-way, taxis and other passenger vehicles for hire, parking, public gatherings in the right-of-way, provided that permits and licenses shall also be approved by other entities as provided by ordinance. Also, the design, deployment, operations, and maintenance of traffic control devices on local roads and conventional state roads and metro, except for those owned by incorporated cities, and this includes regulatory and warning signs on conventional state routes if not handled by TDOT. Such other powers and duties assigned by the charter, ordinance, or the mayor. And they also oversee payments for transportation capital improvements or capital improvement projects in the right-of-way, and oversee performance of and payments for contracts by such projects planned by other metro agencies. That's quite a bit. The next entity is the Traffic and Parking Commission, which works closely with NDOT. They are also authorized under the Metropolitan Charter. They have 9 members. There's a chief of the police department, 1 council member, and 7 members appointed by the mayor and confirmed by council. And they act in a legislative capacity, and they have direct authority over specific policy areas. They have enumerated powers related to making the roads, streets, and other public ways safe for pedestrians, motorists, and others, and facilitating the flow of traffic. Traffic and parking is to adopt traffic regulations necessarily and properly connected with or incident to the following: location and time limits for parking, places where parking is prohibited or limited to certain hours, the establishment of stop sign controls for through streets or isolated intersections, the establishment of traffic signal controls, the direction in which traffic may use any street or portion of a street, restrictions on the size of vehicles using certain streets, the establishment of speed zones based on the findings of the commission. Other duties include review of proposed ordinances affecting traffic control or use of the streets. They send a recommendation to council. Publication of traffic rules and regulations. Management and control of parking meters, public parking garages, and other traffic facilities in the metro right-of-way. Control and management of public parking garages, and they may enter into leases with private operators to operate such garages and collect rents and fees. They have additional duties under the Metropolitan Code of Laws, and there's several, and I just included a few here as examples. Review of residential parking permit areas, review of valet parking licenses, and establishment of passenger and freight loading zones. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission is also created by ordinance. It's an advisory commission and reviews information and makes recommendations. It has 11 members drawn from the following groups, a really broad way: the community, nonprofit community groups, students or faculty of local schools, organizations representing disabled persons, transportation planning, policy, or design professionals, senior citizen advocacy organizations, local cycling, walking, running, hiking clubs, urban planning or multimodal transportation support organizations, parks and greenways friends groups, and interested individuals. And it has several ex officio members or a designee: the mayor, the director of the health department, director of parks and recreation, director of NDOT, chief of MMPD, MMPS superintendent, director of planning, and the director of WEGO. And their duties include promoting cycling and walking related plans, issues, and infrastructure to the mayor, council, and departments, coordinating with other commissions, including VSAC and traffic and parking, working with local entities to encourage cycling and walking, fostering programming to educate on safe bicycling and walking skills, providing guidance and serving as a resource to NDOT, parks, planning and developing plans, providing guidance to Metro regarding increasing micromobility, cycling, and walking. The last is the Vision Zero Advisory Committee. This is created by NDOT and approved by Council in Resolution 2022-1724, adopting NDOT's Vision Zero Action Plan and 5-year implementation plan. And they are also an advisory body. And they are created, their creation is recommended under the Vision Zero 5-year implementation plan on page 30. And the membership includes representatives from a range of community sectors, including public health, law enforcement, planning, schools, healthcare, industry, mode-specific advocacy organizations, developers, community members. And the purpose is to increase collaboration between agencies responsible for traffic safety and to support implementation efforts for Vision Zero. Their potential activities, and usually this is in the form of letters of support or recommendation, include to review updated crash or safety data, to discuss new crash profiles or potential changes to the high injury network, identify ongoing efforts and opportunities for coordination, provide feedback on equitable engagement strategies for different types of safety projects, and serve in an advisory capacity on implementation actions and progress. Now, there are legal limitations, of course, to the activities of all of these entities. Federal law, of course, in this area, there's a lot of federal regulation. State law concerning like highways, transportation, as well as more general statutes including the Open Meetings Act and the Public Records Act, and the Metropolitan Code of Laws. There's judicial review by the courts. Appeal of decisions, for example, by the Traffic and Parking Commission occurs by common law right of certiorari. The decisions must be based on material evidence and not be arbitrary. Material evidence is relevant evidence that a reasonable person would accept as adequate to support a rational conclusion. And it must exceed a scintilla of evidence, but maybe less than a preponderance. And mere beliefs, opinions, and fears are not material evidence. And that's the overview of all those respective entities and how they operate. So thanks for listening, and hopefully I didn't bore you to death. And if you have questions, you can contact myself or my teammates, Belinda Ramsey and Eric Haber at Metro Legal. Thank you. Oh, I'm passing it over to Margaret Darby.
Thank you very much. We'll go over to the administration table to hear from Special Counsel Darby.
Hi, all of you who don't know who I am Margaret Darby. I'm the Director and Special Counsel to the Metropolitan Council. And I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee is, how it is set up. So like other standing committees, Transportation Infrastructure is a standing committee of the Metropolitan Council as provided by the Council Rules of Procedure adopted at the beginning of every term as their permanent rules. Committee membership and chairmanships are appointed by the Vice Mayor, and they serve from September 1st or thereabouts through August 31st of every year. The Vice Chair is selected by the Chair to serve during that time period, and the rules also authorize the Chair to create subcommittees as needed. Like other standing committees, subject matter related legislation is referred to Transportation and Infrastructure. It's considered by the committee on second reading. Those are ordinances, or if it's a resolution, it's considered by the committee at the meeting where it is introduced, or immediately prior to it being introduced at that council meeting. Specifically, the committee considers legislation related to infrastructure, traffic, parking, transportation, water, sewer, solid waste, public utilities, environment, and sustainability issues. They also will consider legislation related to metro entities such as NDOT, Metro Water Services, the new Department of Solid Waste, Traffic and Parking Commission, and Transportation and Licensing Commission. Once a matter is considered by the committee and action is taken, they make a report at the next meeting of the council, and legislation can't move forward for final adoption until such report is received by committee. In addition to consideration of legislative matters, the committee also hears reports and updates from the related administrative departments and entities. And the committee also holds joint meetings with other standing committees to receive departmental reports related to one or more of those standing committees. This joint meeting is similar to the other joint meetings, but it's distinct in that the participant entities, as just described to you by Council Ann Mickelson, are created via distinct methods, whether it's charter, ordinance, or departmental action. This Transportation and Infrastructure Committee also has similar legal limitations as described to you by Council Mickelson, namely the ones that I think come to the top of my mind are the Open Meetings Act and the Public Records Act. They are required to meet those requirements as well. So if you have any other questions, I'm available to answer those.
Thank you. Do we have any questions about the presentation from legal and from Metro Council's special counsel about the kind of structure and legal basis of these entities? So we did want to start with that just kind of as a level set as we get into the conversation. And so moving ahead through our agenda, I've basically got the four entities, remarks and discussion led by the chair or designees. So that we'll start with the chair of each entity, and then other members can jump in, can comment, can add questions. In my mind, I budgeted about between 5 and 15 minutes for each of these four segments. We're going to just kind of see where the discussion goes and how it's progressing and move from there. Following those four segments, we're going to have a presentation from NDOT and discussion with NDOT. So First on the list, we have remarks and discussion on transportation and infrastructure led by committee chair or designee. So that's me. So I've chaired the Transportation Infrastructure Committee for 2 years now, and we've had some pretty important matters, including the transportation referendum, the Choose How You Move plan, that we have kind of helped lead engagement on and consideration of from the Metro Council to get it on the ballot. And that was, one of the biggest accomplishments of this term so far. So I'm very pleased, and I appreciate committee members especially for their diligence, as well as all the other council members who, went out in their community and engaged on that and really helped get that over the finish line. Generally, the committee's business is, as we just heard, to consider, deliberate, and make recommendations on legislation. So we are the first committee that meets on the Monday before a council meeting. And if we spend extra time deliberating, everything after us is pushed back. So there's a good deal of pressure to get through our agenda and to have our recommendations ready for the meeting. That doesn't leave a ton of space for things like crafting policy, right? So we debate things that have been filed by council members or by the administration. Part of why I wanted to bring this group together is because I think there's opportunity for the different entities, for BPAC, VSAC, traffic and parking, to potentially be spaces where policy can be discussed, crafted, debated, because y'all are not bumping up against the same kind of requirement we have to churn through that agenda every regular transportation infrastructure committee meeting. And if we don't, it gums up the works. And also, I can't talk to my committee members outside of a regular meeting, but I can talk to a BPAC member. I can call a BPAC member and say, what do you think about this policy idea? Do you guys want to maybe put it on the agenda? And I'll come and we can discuss it. I can talk to a Vision Zero member. I can talk to a traffic and parking commissioner member. So, open meetings applies to your entity. It doesn't apply to every other entity. So that's a strength and a potential for kind of working through policy that I see as a potential. Does any other Transportation and Infrastructure Committee members want to weigh in, have a question, a comment, anything about kind of the work we do, how it's structured, how it could work better? Unfortunately, our incoming chair, Quinn Evans Siegel, is not able to be here this evening. That was my fault of scheduling. I was working very diligently to make sure at least the chairs of each group could be here, and I forgot to include Councilmember Evans Siegel. So that's my fault, but we look forward to her taking over the role. I see Councilmember Emily Benedict. I will recognize you.
Thank you, Chair. I think the one thing that we do as a committee is specially called meetings, which I know are difficult like this because it's hard to get a part-time council member to come to extra meetings beyond the other commitments that we have. But sometimes when there is policy we want to discuss, we do have those specially called meetings, which, I think are really important to the work we try to do outside of just the council agenda of items that you described.
Absolutely. Thanks for highlighting that. Any other questions, comments, discussion about the council committee that's the Transportation Infrastructure Committee? All right. I'm not seeing any, so we'll move on to BPAC. So the fourth item on our agenda is remarks and discussion on BPAC led by Commission Chair or designee. I see the chair there, and that is Councilmember Bradford's desk. So I'll have to click the picture of Russ Bradford and recognize, if you'd please introduce yourself, let us know what your name is and which entity you serve on.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks everybody for being here tonight. I'm Catherine McDonald. I'm the current chair of the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. I'm joined tonight by my colleagues, Vice Chair Matthew Hertz, Commissioner John Norris, and then Commissioners Ashley Wilson and Carrie Rogers as well. Really appreciate you having us here tonight, and thank you, Councilmember Parker, for putting this meeting together. So BPAC is a Metro Commission that serves to advise the Mayor's Office, Metro departments such as NDOT, and Council on issues regarding walking and biking. BPAC was actually originally established in Nashville in 2008 under Mayor Carl Dean, before being dissolved in 2019. It was then reestablished under Mayor O'Connell's leadership through an ordinance that was passed in August of 2023. So the first meeting of our current BPAC took place last May, in May of 2024. So we are a relatively new commission in our current form, but we're very happy to be here doing this work. BPAC currently has 10 members and 1 vacancy. We meet monthly on the 3rd Monday of each month from 5 to 6:30 p.m. We have 3 active subcommittees who meet monthly as well, and our meetings are also attended by a variety of ex officio members from Metro departments. Some of our activities in our first year as a commission include reapplying for bicycle-friendly community status through the League of American Bicyclists. This past January, Nashville was awarded bronze level status, which was the same as we have had since 2012. This was the first time that Nashville had reapplied for several years, so we were glad to have regained our status. We're now using the feedback from that application to determine what we need to do to move up to silver. Our commission over the past year has also reviewed and provided feedback on a number of major infrastructure projects, including Main Street and Gallatin Pike, the Athena and Church Street bikeways, Commerce Street, DeMunbury and Hill, and East Bank Boulevard. We have worked with NDOT and the Vision Zero Advisory Committee to advocate for quick build safety projects to improve safety in response to fatal crashes involving bicyclists and pedestrians. We submitted an annual report last December to both the mayor's office and council, detailing our activities as well as the outstanding needs that we see for our city. Overall, last year, Nashville built 3.8 miles of sidewalk and 21.4 miles of bikeways. I think we can all agree that's not enough. And we look forward to continuing to work with NDOT and the Choose How You Move team going forward to accelerate the construction of multimodal infrastructure. In terms of my background, I'm a neurologist at Vanderbilt, and I'm also a mom to 2 young daughters. So my approach to these issues really comes from a place of safety and accessibility. I take care of a lot of patients who lose their ability to drive very early in life, and when they do, they lose their independence. So I believe very strongly that we should be designing our streets so they are safe and accessible for all ages and abilities. I would love to see my patient in a wheelchair and my 3-year-old on her scooter be able to get around just as easily and safely as our neighbors who choose to drive. You should not have to drive a car in order to access our society, but this is unfortunately the case in much of our city. As you might know, this meeting tonight was prompted by a discussion in the Traffic and Parking Commission meeting on June 9th, the day after Dot Dobbins was killed on 3rd Avenue North. Last week, a young woman on a bicycle was struck and seriously injured at this same location. So I think this shows us very clearly that what we are doing is not working. Even after a tragedy that garnered a lot of public attention, and even at a location that we all know is unsafe, we are still failing to do enough to prevent people from being hurt and killed on our streets. To me, BPAC plays a very important role as a public-facing commission. All of our members are volunteers or community members. We're often the ones who have been in the trenches, walking, biking, and taking the bus, and seeing firsthand how hard it is to move around the city without using a car. And we've also seen how hard it can be to turn the needs on our streets into action. So I really see us first and foremost as advocates who can use our voice to amplify needs and concerns from the community and communicate these to decision makers. One of my primary goals over the past year has been to increase the accessibility of our commission. We have a very active public comment period at the beginning of each meeting. We've had wonderful people come speak at every one of our meetings, and we want more of this. We've also been advocating very strongly to have our meetings streamed, which I'm really excited will be happening starting in September. Another one of our main goals is to make sure that the public has a voice in the decisions that are made in our city. The people who live in this city and use our infrastructure every day are our experts. They know where the gaps are, they know what is safe and what is not. And our leadership needs to do better at listening and acting on the feedback they receive from the public. We also need to ensure transparency of decision-making so we know how the plans that we have are being executed, what the status of a project is, and if the timeline or scope of that project is changed, we need to be made aware of that as well. Right now, our commission is actively working with NDOT to identify specific points within the charter process where we can directly provide feedback on designs and be included in this process. And I look forward to working closely with them on this. So I want to thank Councilmember Parker again for bringing us all together today. I'm excited to discuss how we can better collaborate across these really critical commissions and committees. We're all often working in parallel and having similar conversations in different rooms, but we haven't had a forum to really kind of all talk about these issues together in one space. So thank you, and I look forward to discussing more tonight. I'm going to hand it over to our Vice Chair, Matt Hertz, who'll make some brief comments as well. And if any other of the BPAC commissioners would like to speak, they're welcome to.
Mr. Hertz, you're recognized.
Thank you. Good evening, Councilmember Parker, my Councilmember Clay Capp, Brent Schultz, our NDOT facilitator, and other council members present in the room, and fellow commissioners of BPAC. I'm speaking tonight as Vice Chair of Nashville's Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. First, I want to thank NDOT and Director Diana Alarcon for their ongoing work to improve pedestrian safety across our city. We recognize the tremendous challenges you face and appreciate your dedication to making Nashville more walkable and safe for all residents. However, we also acknowledge there's significant work ahead of us. Tonight, I want to emphasize that we need a shift from talking about problems to taking immediate action on solutions we already know will work. We have data showing which crosswalks are most vulnerable. We know which intersections see repeated near misses and accidents. As Catherine said, tragically, we've seen this play out in real time. In June, 77-year-old Dobbins was killed while using a marked crosswalk in Germantown. Just this past weekend, or I suppose now 2 weekends ago, another person was struck at that same exact crosswalk. These aren't statistics, they're our neighbors, and their tragedies were preventable. We have the engineering knowledge to implement proven safety measures. So why are we waiting? Let's prioritize these high-risk locations and begin improvements tomorrow. I live in 5 Points in East Nashville, a generally pedestrian-friendly neighborhood, yet I witness dangerous conditions daily. Cars speed through residential streets like South 10th and 11th, while families with strollers cross to visit local ice cream and hot dog businesses, small businesses. In fact, South 11th Street was approved for traffic calming measures, simple speed cushions, almost 2 years ago, yet I'm told there's a backlog. This backlog seems unnecessary when I see NDOT's capability demonstrated daily. Submit a Hub Nashville ticket for a pothole, and crews often respond within 30 minutes. If we can mobilize that quickly for pavement, surely we can improve our 2-year turnaround time for life-saving pedestrian safety measures. I also regularly see vehicles illegally parked in clearly marked no parking zones, blocking sight lines and creating hazards. I've submitted numerous Hub Nashville tickets when I observe violations, but consistently receive GOA responses days later, gone on arrival. Of course, the cars are gone by then. They were only illegally parked for an hour or two, but that's exactly when they pose the greatest danger to pedestrians. This highlights a critical gap. We need proactive enforcement, not just reactive responses. We need infrastructure changes that make dangerous behavior difficult, not just rules that go unenforced. BPAC stands ready to support NDOT in identifying priority locations, advocating for quick build safety improvements, and helping coordinate community input. But we need commitment to action over analysis paralysis. Our residents, especially children, elderly, and disabled community members, cannot wait for perfect solutions. They need safer streets now. Let's use this collaboration to move from planning to implementation, from discussion to delivery. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hertz. So I received a forwarded email from some of the folks that involved some of the folks in this room that included some suggestions. And I just want to clarify, one of the suggestions was to create feedback email. So, if you email council members at nashville.gov, that goes to all 40 of us. If you email BZA at nashville.gov, that goes to the BZA members. And it was suggested that we create a similar kind of intake email for Vision Zero and BPAC. Is that, can I ask the Chair McDonald, there's not a centralized email for BPAC at this time? I'm sorry, I'll recognize you on the mic.
No, we don't have a centralized email at this time.
Okay, thank you. And if I may jump over to a Vision Zero person, recognize myself there. If you could just let us know your name for the record and let us know if VZAC has a centralized.
Sure, Peter Robinson masquerading as Councilmember Parker at the desk. We do not have an email or centralized way to receive feedback either.
Okay, thank you. And Chair Mason, if I can go to you just to answer the same question, is there a centralized email that you're aware of that the public can reach the commission? I'm sorry, I got the wrong row, maybe. You're Welsh, not Gad. Okay, I'm sorry, you're recognized.
Yes, I believe there's an email established that is centralized for our commission.
Thank you, sir. So that was one suggestion, and I think it would be worth exploring on the administration side. Next, we have remarks and discussion on traffic and parking, led by commission chair or designee. I will go first to the Chair Mason. Just any comments about how the commission's working, what your experience has been, and then from any other fellow members who would like to join in. I apologize. I didn't ask if there were any other BPAC. Chair Mason, if you don't mind, we're going to circle back to the previous item because I think we had a member of the BPAC who I failed to recognize. So my apologies. Sir, you are at Aaron Evans' desk. You are recognized. If you'd please let us know your name, sir.
Thank you. I'm John Norris. I've lived in Nashville since 1957. Have done quite a bit of bicycling and walking here since then, although I took the bus here today on account of my clothing. My cousin from Jersey said something to me a few years
If you
ago.
could bring the mic a little closer to your.
My cousin from Jersey said something a few years ago that resonated with me. What he said was, a city is a place where you can live without a car. And I agree with that fully, with emphasis on the word live. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate those comments. All right, and any further discussion on BPAC as an item? I know we have at least one other commissioner present. Anybody wish to make comments about BPAC specifically before we move on? All right, I'm seeing none, so we're going to conclude that agenda item and move on now to remarks and discussion on traffic and parking, and we'll go again to Chair Mason. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Councilman. Brandon Mason, Chairman of the Traffic and Parking Commission. The Traffic and Parking Commission, as I believe it, has been around for an established time. And I'm fortunate and enough to be the chairman of that commission. I'd shared I was empowered and motivated by Vice Mayor Henderson. We shared on the council together, and she always, or the commission together, excuse me, and she'd always say, do what's right and do what seems fair and realistic and stand for that. Chairman Green, who preceded me, was on the commission for 10 plus years, who always said, trust NDOT, trust in their staff and the hard work that they do, and always refer to legal and their expertise in what they are, their purpose there to support the Traffic and Parking Commission. And then there's Commissioner Sarah Lee Woods, who's not on the commission anymore, but she was someone that stood on pedestrian safety. Pedestrian safety was paramount, and if there was ever an item that affected pedestrian safety or needed to be approved, she was bold enough to vote against it and or provide reasons or stand on a avenue to ensure that that's paramount. And then lastly, Captain Jones, who is not on the commission anymore, he would always say, you got to have public trust. And with his experience in the Metro Police Department, without public trust, it's hard to really accomplish much of anything when we're trying to move and settle items within the commissions. I think the Traffic and Parking Commission, the city has established and had a lot of growth over the last 5 to 10 years. And the Traffic and Parking Commission has changed drastically over the last 5 or 10 years. And I think there's a lot of passion around, within our charter, what we want to do, but better understanding what the purview is around the operation of the Traffic and Parking Commission, and look for ways to like it was brought up on the screen early on, and Councilman Parker, I appreciate this venue because I think coordinating amongst each other with various things that, for example, TMP, it's not in our purview to look at speed cushions, right? It's just not within the charter, but it's definitely something that needs to be discussed in a collective way to then just remember that pedestrian safety is paramount within everything that we do around these commissions. So I believe more coordination amongst each commission to do essentially what you were talking about. There may be some things that, again, we can't talk about within our general bodies, but there's a way that we can collaborate to say, hey, we can do everything we can to lower speed limits or regulate things within that purview. But, additional items that may be needed or may be warranted, we can collaborate and find other avenues to get that done. I think in general, our commission is very spirited. We want to encourage everybody to provide their thoughts and their passion around it. And I'm proud of the collaborative efforts that we've had with NDOT and within our commission to try to get things pushed forward.
Thank you very much, Chair. We'll go first to members of traffic and parking that are here with us. Do any members of the commission seek to be recognized for comments, questions, anything? Sir, let's see, I believe that's Jeff Prepty's desk. If you could please introduce yourself, sir, and please make your comments.
Hello, my name is Robert Gibbs. I'm the Vice Chair of the Traffic and Parking Commission. I don't know if this is the right place to do this, but when we were having our June meeting after that tragic accident, I asked these questions, and it was my hope that we were going to be able to put together something to be able to answer these questions. So I'll run them off to you real quick. What is the process that NDOT uses to pick areas to work on? Then what is the process used to work on those areas in the timeline? And lastly, a list of the most dangerous intersections in the city. And it was my hope, and I believe the hope of our commission, was to be able to get some of those answers and to try to be able to, if nothing else, work through them, make sure that they're seen, and it not just be a situation that they're there, but something is actually happening with them. I'm just no beat cop from Kansas City. So I look at things a little bit differently than other people do. But I also, now being just a citizen, I look at things and I ask why. And I don't see real good answers sometimes. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, sir. And because that felt like a question directed at the department, I'll ask NDOT, would you all prefer to address that question at this juncture, or would you prefer, hold on, let me get your table on, or would you prefer to address it during your presentation and your dedicated time?
If I could, I'd like to address it during the presentation because we actually have a slide that speaks to that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Other Traffic and Parking Commission members wishing to comment? See you there. I will try to remember which council member sits at that desk. It's Vo. Okay. If you could please introduce yourself and let us know your thoughts.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone. I'm Lisa Haller. I am actually live in Councilmember Vo's district, so it's ironic I'm sitting here at her desk tonight. But thank you, Chair Parker, for having us, to the Vice Mayor and all the council members who are with us, to the NDOT team. This is really a terrific opportunity. I am new to the TNP Commission and support so much of what has already been said by the TNP colleagues, as well as by BPAC thus far. I totally agree with the comment that those in the city that use the infrastructure are really the experts that know and have and hold so much information that I think forums like this, forums like public open meetings, really provide that opportunity for those at NDOT and our council members to learn and understand where those really pinch points, dangerous areas are. And I believe at the commission meeting, when Vice Chair Gibbs asked those questions, I think we also asked some other questions regarding how does NDOT or Metro be alerted when traffic signals are out, when pedestrian signals are out. There was a situation recently right here on Broadway whereby at one of the most major intersections, whereby all the traffic signals and all the pedestrian signals were out on a Saturday at 5 p.m. I'm a major walker. I'm a user of every sidewalk in town. I just happened to come across it and came to find out that at least the pedestrian signals had been out for days. So that was a topic of discussion, I think, at this same meeting, where how can, through some notification alert system, how can those outages be elevated in real time versus being told, well, it will get fixed on Monday. So that would, I think, was one of the intentions of this meeting as well. And if I may also add for a suggestion, in terms of collaboration amongst our groups, I mean, we all have issues, I think many of the same as Chair McDonald referenced. We're all discussing safety. We're all making that a priority. And I would suggest that we look at things in a holistic way. So, for example, when a request comes before the commission, as it did at a recent meeting, to add a stop sign near a school, and we know that there is no crosswalk striping at that same intersection, can we kind of come together and look at that intersection holistically versus in silos, where the TMP can address a stop sign, but somebody else addresses crosswalk striping? And how can we kind of bring all that together? That would be a suggestion I would make moving forward.
Thank you. Yes, I recall that discussion from the meeting. It was a very interesting one. Yes.
Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely. And I saw that NDOT requested to respond. So I will go over to Director Alarcon, if you'd please introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Diana Alarcon with the Department of Transportation, Multimodal Infrastructure, and we call ourselves NDOT to make it quick. So I am speaking about this because I do not have a slide on it, but the best thing to do as a community right now, if you run into a light signal, like a traffic signal or a pedestrian signal not working, is to put it into the Hub Nashville. Once it gets into Hub, it is sent over to our traffic management center. Now remember, we just opened the traffic management center last October of 2024. Prior to that, we didn't have one. So a lot has gone in to build up that infrastructure within the traffic management system so that we could actually then send out a message and get our staff out there to get it corrected. If nobody tells us, we really don't know because we are not on real time. So it's really important that if anyone does run across a signal, whether it is a traffic signal or if it is a pedestrian signal, a bike signal, whatever it is, and it's not functioning appropriately, please put it in Hub Nashville and let us know. That will be moving, and that is a 24/7. So just as an FYI, just wanted to put that out. And, you know, since starting up the Traffic Management Center, we're able now to be more real time than we've ever been, because in the past, if it was especially on a Saturday and it went into Hub, we didn't get it till Monday. So at least now, though, it has a moving action happen on a regular basis. So just wanted to share that out. Thank you.
And Director,
Yes, sir.
I know that as we're undertaking this process to switch the streetlights to LED, not only are they much longer lasting than the sodium halide or whatever we were using before, but they're able to see when one's out. So they're able to see, like, there's not current draw happening at this pole. Once we've got, like, the fiber network built out and the smart signals more deployed around the county, would we get that feedback at the traffic center that, oh, this light is out, or oh,
Yes,
this
sir.
crossing? Okay.
It would actually like automatically send it, even if it was like going into a failure before we even knew it was going to fail, it would send us notice so that we could get ahead of it. But right now, for example, we don't have that communication happen into the TMC. So a lot of the stuff that happens out on the roadway, we are really hoping that all our neighbors within Davidson County will let us know so that we can get the process moving forward. But that's the whole reason is we're way behind in our technology and our actual equipment we use, and we're trying to expedite it and move it quickly. But just from a design perspective, if we're going to design a brand new intersection with mass arms and new lighting and all of that, that's in real time adaptive, it's not something that you just go out and pick up off the shelf and throw up. It is about a 4 to 5 month process to do the design correctly, because you have to tie in the fiber and the electric and make the communication not happen just at that intersection, but the next intersection, the next intersection, the next intersection. It's a big process. And so what we're super excited about is we are going to be able to put a lot of our signals through Choose How You Move. We are actually looking at putting close to 2/3 of our signals into this type of system. We'll continue to go after grants to try to get the other 1/3 of our city done, because we would really love to have our entire city on this great new technology that's going to make us much more efficient and safer. But we're not there yet, so we're really counting on our community to help us so that we can act on it. So thank you.
Thank you, Director. And on that note about Hub, let folks know there's an app, there's a website. I also always include the fact that you can just pick up a phone and dial 311. Some people don't fiddle with smartphones. They might have one, but that's just because that's the only phone you can get now. They don't really use the internet on it. So let folks know they can just dial 311 and not have to download apps or do any of that kind of stuff. And they can report things to Hub via just dialing 311. Okay, so we're back on remarks and discussion, traffic and parking. Any other traffic and parking commissioners? I see Brenda Gadd back there. If you please introduce yourself.
Neil Korentik. I want to echo the collaboration and try to ask for more help with that. Oftentimes, we've gotten much better at getting staff reports the week prior to our meeting. Sometimes they lean a little bit later in the week, and it's hard to be able to have the time to actually go out and learn about the issues and see it if it isn't something that we are close to. So moving those staff reports earlier in the timeline, having the opportunity to maybe see drafts as they're kind of being worked through, so that way, I know our feedback can be included. To also see what the other commissions are doing. I know some of the speed studies that were worked on, they were discussed a year prior to coming to us almost. Be nice to know when there are agenda items on their agendas that are going to impact us, so we can also sit in and listen to that. Not just commissions, but I think that there are a lot of community engagement meetings that NDOT participates in that I've been able to find and hear great feedback from the community there as well. And, it'd be great to just hear about those up front, so that way we can go and try to plan those into our schedule as well. There are a lot of people really invested in this, and the more time that we can spend hearing from people and hearing about these issues, where they're at, I think the better. It's really hard to get people to come to these meetings. Our meeting is starting now at 2:30 in the afternoon. That is very difficult for people to show up to. So the more of those public meetings that we can go to, where it is at different times, sometimes in the evening, sometimes during lunchtime, those really help. So those are the types of collaboration that I would like to see, and hopefully we can kind of move forward as we do this. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, as we talk about collaboration between the different entities, one of the things that makes it very convenient for me to keep up with the business of the Traffic and Parking Commission is that those meetings are recorded. And I really appreciate the administration working to be able to add some other important boards and commissions to our streaming. Once I kind of dug in on that issue, I realized quickly that it is not a simple switch flip type solution. There's a lot of logistical considerations, staffing considerations with ITS. We need more hardwired rooms. We need more meeting rooms generally in Metro, but I am really pleased that the administration was able to get at least BPAC slated for streaming and recordation, so that those of us who are not members of BPAC can keep up with their stuff without having to attend, and hopefully we'll get the Vision Zero Advisory Committee there as well. Something I've noticed, and I think it kind of mirrors an experience, something I've noticed at Traffic and Parking a lot, and it mirrors an experience I have frequently with constituents is, somebody requests, say, a four-way stop, and then it's not warranted when the engineers look at it. And, you know, sometimes they'll go take a second look because of different circumstances or whatever. But, you know, I've had some success with specifically Scobey, although I think he's in a different role now at NDOT. But when people get a rejection of a request, finding a way to have that issue addressed, maybe it's not what people asked for, maybe it's not everything people asked for, but instead of just saying no to a four-way stop, finding a way to say, okay, but we're going to put no parking to corner signs up. We're going to put stop bars in at the two stops. Finding a way to not just say no, to say no, but we can maybe accomplish this, or we can maybe accomplish this today, and maybe in the future there's more we can do. I'm not sure who's going to be responsible for like things like that now that Scobey has a new position, but I'm sure there will be someone assigned to that task. All right. Do any other traffic and parking commissioners have comments, or go back to Neil? We can go back to you. Yes.
I'll just follow up on what you just said there too. You know, a lot of us do put in a lot of hub tickets. And I think that a valuable thing to add to that would be to say, what are you actually trying to solve? You know, oftentimes we're putting in a car is blocking this intersection, or it's, you know, put that in there so that way there's an opportunity for us to show the reason of what we're actually doing. It is that car in that moment, but it is a problem long term, and we want to see that fixed. So having more availability for feedback in that loop would be really helpful.
That's good feedback, yes. Any other commissioners want to speak on traffic and parking specifically, or other folks who are present have questions, comments, anything about traffic and parking commission specifically? All right, I see Councilmember Coopin back there, who is at his desk mercifully. Thank you. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to take on a different identity today. I just haven't decided which one yet. I've got a list of questions and appreciate the folks that are here that have been already named. I won't name them again, but really appreciate all the hard work and effort that's going into this meeting and the work that we're doing here. You've heard it kind of referred to a little bit, and I just get this question a lot. And so for the record, for folks listening at home, would love to hear a little bit more about MUTCD and stop signs and what that entails. I get constituents who get the email that says you need 5 crashes at this intersection to get a stop sign, which I know that the department and I have had a lot of conversations about, but is very disconcerting to constituents of mine who witness these issues. So would love to hear more about what the MUTCD is, how does it affect this conversation, and also what alternatives are out there as well.
Thank you. We'll go over to the NDOT table.
Thank you. Diana Alarcon again, and thank you for that question. So MUTCD, for those and for folks that may be watching, stands for the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. By state legislation, we are required to follow it. So when an engineer is actually looking at different things for a yield sign, a stop sign, anything, even a stoplight, anything that is what we refer to as a traffic control device, which can also be a children at play sign. There are certain warrants that have to be met before we can actually put it forward for consideration and ask the Traffic and Parking Commission to allow us to change that on the curb. So we have to, and the engineers have to, per the state legislation and also per the charter, have to follow the MUTCD. Now, when Vice Mayor Henderson was on the commission and I first got here, she had asked us to look at if there was a way that we might be able to think of things differently, like you asked. So we did actually go back and add some additional policy that gave us the ability to use sight distance, also to be able to use if it's near a park, or if it's already, for example, maybe has near a park, near a school, something like that, and meets all the federal guidelines, we would be able to have engineering judgment play to that. And we've been successful with getting many stop signs, our yield signs, our stuff like that actually installed using that engineering judgment. And crashes can go into that as well. It depends on the crash, I hate to say, because a lot of crashes that happen, they're on behavior too. So we have to really have a hearty conversation, and I'm going to discuss that more when we go through our slide about behaviors and actually encouraging the rest of our community to be mindful of each other and respectful on the roadway so we won't have as many crashes. But there is engineering judgment involved, but they still have to follow a warrant process on that.
Thank you, Director. And just to make sure everybody knows, NDOT has a dedicated segment coming up. So we're still on traffic and parking, and then we're going to discuss Vision Zero Advisory Committee, and then we're going to have NDOT give their own presentation. So we'll have plenty of time to ask specific questions. That was a traffic and parking specific one, Councilmember Coupin. So thank you for including that one there. All right. Any other questions, comments, discussion on traffic and parking? Councilmember Benedict, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So the comment came up that if a car's blocking a lane, for instance, and we get a picture of the location and a picture of the license plate, why can't we respond to that, quickly? So, sorry.
I don't know that that's the traffic and parking.
Okay.
I think that's more of an NDOT enforcement question that might be more appropriate for their segment at the end.
Thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Yes. Commissioner, third row to end at Vo's desk. Yes.
Thank you. I'll be quick. Just a follow-up. I just want to clarify. I believe in calling 311 that service is only available Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So just for those who may be watching from home. And also to clarify that in that example I gave at Broadway and 12th, I made the judgment call to call 911. All the lights were out. All the pedestrian signals were out. So I do think it's maybe some more training, clarification, guidance on what, for the public and for all of us here, what determines an emergency. Because I have been told directly from the director of HUB that HUB is not to be used for emergencies. So I think maybe we need some training on what is deemed an emergency. Again, I called 911. I also called my council member, Coupin for District 19, who responded immediately. Thank you, Councilmember Coupin. But I think also for everyone to understand, 311 is only good Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
That's very important to highlight. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
All right. Anything further on Traffic and Parking Commission before we move on to Vision Zero? The Director Alarcon, you're recognized.
Thank you. Just real quick, Hub Nashville is 24/7 now. So you can dial the 311. And so after hours, we may not have someone sitting in there, but after hours, it goes over to our emergency folks and they will just dispatch out whatever they need to. And so they have a direct line into our traffic management center, which has a direct line to whoever's on call to get them out there immediately for it. So I'm just saying, recognizing again, as we built out the traffic management system, got these programs in place, we've actually been able to expand the service. So I do agree with you, and I will work with Director Williams over in the hub and think about another release to kind of do an informational out to the community as a whole. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you. All right, anything further on traffic and parking? All right, seeing none, so we will jump over to our next agenda item, which is remarks and discussion on Vision Zero Advisory Committee or Commission, led by the committee chair or designee. And I will go back again to Councilmember Parker's desk. If you'd please introduce yourself.
Peter Robinson. Yes, we are a committee, Vision Zero Advisory Committee. I think we differ slightly in our bylaws from some of the other entities here. We meet every Tuesday, the second Tuesday of each month. We're in the Howard office building. You are, each and every one of you, invited to come, and several of you are there often. Councilmember Coupin was there just a couple of weeks ago for reasons that we'd rather him not have to be there. But you will, Director Alarcon is there very often, and so we do have fun, even though we are a little bit of a downer because we are looking at some pretty heavy things. Vision Zero is created, I think we are the youngest of the entities. I'm including the previous history of BPAC when I say that. We were created through I believe the order was, there was a plan in 2022 that was an implementation of a strategic plan that recommended a formation of a Vision Zero plan. That came from 2017. The Metro Nashville Transportation Plan of 2020 then laid out our creation, with the committee actually being formed in 2023. Everything takes a long time, and we are impatient. We have a really strong history in Nashville of creating very strong plans and bold visions to address things like the biggest challenges that face us, like the rising traffic deaths that we have seen in Nashville. And just for the record, traffic deaths did increase significantly from 2016, 2017, 2018 period. We saw that increase leading into the pandemic years. We had pretty strong increases from 2018 up through 2020, 2021, 2022, and through 2023 with fairly significant increases. The need is there, and we all know this, which is why we're here, right? As each of our organizations know, when it comes to carrying these bold plans that we create, the hard part is carrying them out. And just to name check some of the great plans that we have in Metro, the Walk Bike Nashville Strategic Plan, In Motion, Vision Zero Action Plan, the Connect Downtown Plan, those are all good plans, and we have good roadmaps. The challenge is implementing them. We know on Vision Zero that there are plenty of challenges that the city faces, not the least of which is the fairly significant infrastructure base that we have built out in the post-war period that prioritized speed and throughput, and that we are now attempting to retrofit piecemeal, slowly but surely, to prioritize safety to a greater degree, which isn't to say that their safety was not a provision earlier, but with the rise in traffic deaths, we see the importance in restoring that safety. Additionally, with the change in uses of our roads, a lot of these pikes are no longer places that you would drive down to get into Nashville. They are a neighborhood, a place where people live and work and worship and play. There is also the challenge that we have where we have to coordinate with multiple entities. And I really appreciate a meeting like this to be able to coordinate, because I think that is necessary. Nashville obviously has to coordinate with state entities as well. TDOT controls, if we look at our high injury network, 48 of our 50 most dangerous roads. And so coordination with TDOT is key, and NDOT does that on a daily basis. There are times when we are trying to influence TDOT and seek for them to allow us to implement some treatments on a road that is not something that TDOT has used before, and getting them a little out of their comfort zone is a good thing, and getting us a little out of a comfort zone is a good thing. Vision Zero has been, as a committee, in existence for coming up on 3 years. And during that 3 years, our stated goal from the beginning has been built into our name. The appropriate number of traffic fatalities or road fatalities in Nashville is 0. That is our goal. And the 5-year plan that was implemented through, I believe, the Metro Council and NDOT before the committee was even formed was to reduce that down over a 5-year period. The first couple of years, I have to say that we were not able to accomplish what we wanted, as those traffic fatality numbers went up instead of down. I'm happy to report that they went down somewhat last year, which was good. This year, we are roughly on track to match last year, which is not 0. On the roads that NDOT controls or has real influence on, as a committee, we look at these fatalities every month. And so when we look at something like the death of Dobbins or somebody else, please understand that is something that we do every week and every month. We are maybe not a whole lot of fun at parties when we have to look at these morbid statistics over and over again, but it is something we take fairly seriously. And for every one like Dobbins, there are dozens more in a given quarter that also took place that you maybe didn't hear about. And we look at each of those, and they matter too. On the roads that NDOT controls, which is some of the ones that we focus on most, Vision Zero Advisory Committee members have often expressed, understandably, a frustration. And this is a frustration that NDOT shares, by the way. We hope and expect and have expected to see more progress than we have been able to actually accomplish. Those plans that I talked about that Metro has announced Many of them were supposed to be completed by now, and yet they're still in the planning stages. We all know a lot of the reasons why that is. Plans change. We've had a lot of things that have been very promising, but a lot of things are still on the drawing board when they were supposed to have been in concrete, brick and mortar by now. And we want to see those happen as much as possible. And so to the extent we can coordinate and speed that process, that would be fantastic. It is a common dynamic for us at Vision Zero to have a fatality and for us to look at that intersection. And there have been one or more fatal crashes at that same location before. And we can go back and look and see the reports that were created by the consultants that NDOT hired to take a look at the location and make recommendations on how to make that safer. And months or years go by and the next fatality occurs and the cycle of grief and loss and recommendations repeats itself without the changes actually happening. And that's something that we want to shortcut and to speed up. And NDOT has the same desire, for the record. We all want to be able to do this. If we measure the success of Vision Zero by the most basic metric, whether people are still being killed on Nashville's roads, we are not where we want to be yet. Like I said, the fatality numbers increased over a couple of years. We had a better year last year, and we're hoping to improve on that, although so far it's been a little bit of a rough year. There were 12 people killed on our roads last month. I think the count so far year to date is 60. That's not zero. I asked some of the members of our committee what we wanted to accomplish in this joint meeting, and a couple of things that they mentioned were further coordination with every other entity here and to work together, and particularly to drive and accelerate action, because we know that inaction is allowing more people to be killed on our roads at the rate that we consider unacceptable. And so to the extent we can work together, that is our goal. It would be to accomplish more, to achieve more of our plans faster. We'd also like, if it's possible, then hope for this process to help also clarify the different hierarchies. Metro is a large organization. We had to explain in the beginning of this meeting who everybody was. And so it's going to take some coordination, right? We have some big and exciting changes happening. NDOT, as a relatively new organization, is still new and still, staffing up and forming what it is and it's going to be. Choose How You Move has made a huge change. We are extremely excited for that. But sometimes I don't necessarily know whether if a Vision Zero committee member needs to talk to somebody from NDOT or Choose How You Move or what this is. We've got, authorities that are building out a new neighborhood across the river and how that's going to look in the future and who we need to talk to as we plan that out or work with something there. It's not always clear. And so to clarify, who does what and who we can go to would also be very helpful. And that's something that members of the committee wanted. We know that there are fairly fast, and when I say fairly, I mean fast for infrastructure, fast for government. There are fairly fast and cost-effective measures that can be added to most NDOT-controlled streets. And there are things that can be done to pave the way so that those measures can be provided if they're not immediately available in the condition it is now. The number one thing that we know over and over again that leads to traffic fatalities and injuries is vehicle speed. It's the number one risk factor, and many of those treatments that we would be looking for would be addressing speed. And so be able to coordinate with that and to work with other organizations that have desires that are maybe not entirely, they can be cooperative but aren't necessarily the same, is one of our goals. For example, at the beginning of Vision Zero, we noted that for goals like BPAC, which addresses sort of mode share and how people get around the city, we sort of uncomfortably know that if more people are walking and biking around Nashville, that may actually increase the number of people who are injured or killed in our streets because it is not currently safe for them to bike or walk or roll on all the streets in Nashville. Likewise, NDOT may have some motivations for throughput and things like that for traffic management that we have to coordinate with and balance with safety, and we understand that. But above all, the thing that I think the members of our committee wanted to communicate most is the urgency of being able to make those changes as soon as possible because the need is there and it's happening every month. But we really appreciate everybody's time and appreciate a meeting like this to be able to do that. If there are members of the committee who are here with me that think I didn't cover something, I'll allow them to speak up as well. But that was what we put our heads together with and came up with prior to the meeting.
Thank you very much for those remarks and letting us know what the committee's up to and how it's going. Do any other Vision Zero Advisory Committee members want to comment or ask questions or anything of that nature? I'll go to you and then you, at Councilmember Harrell's desk, if you'd please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Lindsay Ganson. I'm on the Vision Zero Advisory Committee. I was wanting to understand why the Advisory Committee on Transportation, the Choose How You Move Implementation Committee, wasn't included in this meeting. But that's just a body I think we've discussed a lot in coordinating with, so it seems like missing from the agenda and the gathered committee members here.
There wasn't a specific reason that we didn't include them. I made the decision to include the folks that are here. But I think that is good feedback. I mean, the more that I've heard from folks, I mean, in this discussion, they're obviously going to be a really critical partner moving forward. So I think, if Chair Evan Siegel chooses to do anything resembling this during her time serving as the chair of the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, I think I would recommend that she consider including them as well. So that's good feedback. Thank you. And I'll go to Councilmember Toom's desk. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Robin Owen. I'm a member of VSAC. And I just have a question that relates really well to something that Peter said, which is that those of us on VSAC, we know that Dot Dobbins' death is depressingly common in our city. A tremendous tragedy that happens so frequently throughout our city. And it's a question that relates to when and how NDOT chooses to respond to a death. I think NDOT has been quite responsive in many ways to Dot Dobbins' death, but there are a number of deaths that I'm aware of that don't get the same kinds of response. So I'm thinking of near my home on Antioch Pike, Jianzu Yu was a elderly woman and a pedestrian who was hit by a car and died, and Jose Salamanca was a cyclist who was hit by a car and died. I believe that, and nothing was done on Antioch Pike. Walk Bike Nashville did a tactical urbanism project, and that was the only response to to the first death that I mentioned. And there's still not been a single response to Jose Salamanca's death. I think that there's actually a number of reasons. I think that Councilmember Benton, who represents at least the second death, hasn't been active the way that Councilmember Coupin has been. I think advocates like myself and others in this room, we have not been as outspoken about these deaths, and that's an indictment on us. But I would hope and trust that Metro is held to a higher standard than we hold private citizens for equity in our responses. And so that is one question I'd like to address today.
Thank you. And it might be most appropriate for NDOT to address that during their presentation. I think that's one of the kind of reactive versus the existing work plan is one of the consistent themes that we've had in discussions with NDOT officials. But that's a very good point, and thank you for highlighting it. Someone was asking me about the tragic situation in Germantown, and I said, we had 2 people killed at 5th and Main in July. And it's unfortunately, yes, all too common around the county. So, okay, any other comments from Vision Zero members, questions, or other people that are present, questions specifically about Vision Zero? We'll open it up to non-members now. Remember, we have an NDOT presentation coming up next, Councilmember, but I'll go to Councilmember Emily Benedict.
Thank you, Chair. So I was just looking at the Vision Zero resolution, and in it, we also talked about injuries. So I'm looking at the agenda. It looks like fatalities are the focus of the meetings. So I was curious, are we tracking those injuries from crashes as well? Okay, I see heads nodding. And then the other thing I just wanted to call out that I'm not sure if this is on legislation for the others, but in this legislation, it actually says we'll work to ensure rapid deployment of Vision Zero. So I just want to kind of call that out, rapid deployment. I think speed is an issue for me, not, pardon the pun, but speed of implementation of things is an issue that's going to follow through for the rest of the meeting here. But I just wanted to call out that it is, in fact, in this legislation for this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I'll just make a brief comment about Vision Zero. You know, I have not been able to make it to a meeting yet. Again, I'm hoping that we get those recorded and streamed so that myself and the rest of the public can keep up with those meetings better. Once we get some additional capacity to be able to get more boards and commissions online, I'm hoping that happens. But I do really appreciate the way that just from skimming the agendas, it appears that y'all are kind of taking these close looks at these fatal incidents. And I really appreciate that we have a body in Nashville now that is doing that for when these things occur around the county. So thank you all for doing that. I know it's not fun work, but it's important work. So thank you. Anything further on Vision Zero, questions, comments, discussions before we move on to the presentation from NDOT? All right, seeing none, so that'll conclude the Vision Zero portion, and I will turn it over to Director Alarcon, who we very much appreciate joining us here today. I think they've got you up on the screen,
Yes,
and you're good to go.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank y'all so much for being here. I know it's a lot to come and do this and be away from your family, but it's been truly very helpful to have this conversation, so I'm very grateful for it. As you know, I'm Diana Alarcon, and I am the director over the Department of Transportation and Multimodal Infrastructure. And as I said, we like to go with NDOT. It's just easier, clean, and simple. I'm also here tonight with some team members that I just want to call out. I got Philip Jones over there. He's one of our deputy directors. Philip, raise your hands. I also have Hal Bothrop. He's our chief engineer. Raise your hand. Thank you. I have Kristen Kimrow. She's in the back. Kristen, she's one of my assistant directors. Charles Bodie, he's also my human resource director here. He's assistant director. Derek Haggerty, he's also another one. Derek's new to his job. He actually is going to be heading up Choose How You Move. So all the projects that come in through the funding from Choose How You Move is going to be under his purview. Courtney Stone, she is my director of strategic communication and policy. Matt Purvis, he's our council liaison right there. And then I also have Andrew Smith, who is our transportation commission lead, Brett Schultz, who is our BPAC lead, and Valerie Martinez, who is our VSAC lead as well. And real quick, I just want to let you know I have Ricky Rooker, who heads up my Transportation License Commission. So we actually have 4 committees that are in commissions that are underneath us. So just to highlight that. Who's not with us tonight is Brad Freeze. He's our other deputy director. He's actually in Atlanta at a conference. So he did say he's sorry he couldn't make it, but that was on the menu a lot sooner than we got the invite to meet with y'all, but we will definitely be sharing everything with him. I'm glad to be with all of y'all here tonight to talk about ways in which we can work with our partners at Metro Council, the Traffic Parking Commission, the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, and the Vision Zero Advisory Committee to accomplish our collective goals of safe, connected streets that move people where they want to go and need to go. Oh, hold on.
I think it's some technical support.
Yeah, it's, you know what it is? It went too far. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. It's trying to reboot itself. It's one of those Metro things. I've been fortunate to spend the last 3.5 years working here in Nashville and leading a team of very dedicated, highly capable public servants as we transition from a Department of Public Works to a dedicated Department of Transportation. This is an important work. We all know this, and I feel it deeply. I feel it when the police report appears in my email box, and I know that I'm about to learn that someone has lost their life or been seriously injured on a Nashville roadway in Davidson County. I feel it when I attend an open streets event and witness the joy of people walking and biking and playing in the street without fear of being hit by a car. I ride my bike in Nashville. I walk my dogs countless miles each week around my East Nashville neighborhood and also Inglewood. Inglewood, I had it right, sorry. still learning stuff. I witnessed the struggles to safely navigate journeys on foot and bike, and I've experienced the challenges firsthand. The culture of traffic here in Middle Tennessee is one where the car is viewed as king, and I'm committed to continuing to work to shift the culture, because at the end of the day, I understand that safety is paramount to everyone's journey, no matter how they choose to make it. We must continue to work to shift the culture and undo the car-centric design. Most of you know that Nashville streets grid were developed in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Many cities share the same characteristics. Cars became the ultimate way to travel. Driveways led to garages, and front porches were replaced by back patios enclosed with 6-foot fences. The streets that once prioritized people and community shifted to prioritizing cars. Suburban sprawl worsened that challenge with wide thoroughfares that lacked sidewalk, and communities became located far from commercial centers. I'm not here, however, to give a history lesson. That's not what I'm trying to do. I say this to point out the challenges before all of us. I say this to reinforce to our commissioners and our committee members that we hear you. We hear your frustrations, and we hear your passion. I hear this same passion from many of the people that work for NDOT, who are feverishly working to undo 80 years of a car-eccentric design and retrofit our streets for everyone. People walking, rolling, biking, using transit, and driving. And I will say to everyone what I say to them: let's work together to change the culture, to build better streets, and to keep our resolve strong no matter how daunting the task may feel at times. We can only do this if we're working together. I tell this to our crews filling potholes and sweeping bike lanes, and I tell this to our signal techs and our complete street planners. Every aspect of our work here is rooted in the philosophy of safety. I've prepared a few documents for you all to see and reference. One is a graph that will show the Vision Zero trends, and thank you very much, Chair Peter, for actually speaking out to that. And also, I want to share with you some project maps of what we're doing, what we've done, and then what we're still doing. As part of the Vision Zero action planning process, we developed a high-injury network of the most dangerous roads and intersections across the city. I'm sure you're all familiar with the stats that 6% of the roads account for 60% of our traffic deaths and serious injuries. Since then, Vision Zero has become an integral to every aspect of our work here, and the resources have been devoted to using the safe system approach and the 5 E's: engineering, education, encouragement, evaluation, and enforcement, to address safety challenges on the high injury network and the county more broadly. For the installation of the pedestrian hybrid beacons at mid-block crossings, to the addition of leading pedestrian intervals on many of our signal crossings, quick build improvements at key intersections, the use of LiDAR to detect near misses, crashes, speed limit reduction, crosswalk refreshings, and much more, we're working each day to address our traffic safety crisis. We've launched a tactical urbanism program and an open streets program for neighborhoods to engage with the right-of-way in an empowered way. We're building and repairing sidewalks across the county and installing protected bikeway facilities in alignment with complete street best practices. And we now have the force multiplier of choose how you move dollars that will allow us to move projects forward more quickly in alignment with the program's priorities. This evening meeting serves as an opportunity for all of us to communicate in an open public setting, and I will emphasize the need of communication in all of its form. Our staff works very hard to serve as resources for the groups represented here today, and I'm requesting that we work together in a way that is respectful, constructive, and productive. Everyone is working for the common cause, and even when objections don't perfectly align, we can still find ways to work together toward that cause. I would also ask that you work to help us change a culture here in Nashville, Davidson County. And yes, it's a culture change. Orienting people away from thinking only about a car, throughput, and toward a culture of truly multimodal transportation. Help us advocate and educate and organize communities as we embark on a transformational change. help us navigate tough conversations with the community that can't imagine the benefits of the change, amplify the good works of the department, challenge us in ways that make us better by celebrating our successes too. I'm so grateful for the members of our Metro Council, including Chair Parker, for the ways that they have supported our young departments over the past 4 years. And I'm grateful for the volunteer committee members and commissioners for investing so much of their valuable time in working together for a more safer, more connected city. As the director, my team has heard me say a million times, I'm all about continual improvement. I'm committed to continuing the progress here in Nashville, Davidson County, and hope we can work together to cut more ribbons on projects. Thank you. So this first slide, I put the first slide up was actually showing the staff and everyone, and then last year or a year before, excuse me, so it's been about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, we actually went in and did a 5-year strategic plan. And in that 5-year strategic plan, we changed our vision, our mission, and our values. And as you can see, our mission is about building a sustainable, balanced, safe, multimodal system for Davidson County. And then we also created the values in which we regarded that we were moving toward. And I'm getting ready to reboot, so sorry about this. Let me just get rid of that. And it's not working, sorry. So we're super excited about that. Now,
Could anyone from staff see if we can figure out what's going on with this laptop?
it's an, oh, it was a great slide. Because it actually showed the visual of where we have been in Vision Zero and where we are going. Does anybody else have a computer I can borrow? This is going to reboot. This is doing what they call a, they are doing a standard upgrade to the community, to the computer. And it comes on and we don't have a choice. It just happens. So just give me a minute. We're going to bring up another computer and share with you because the one slide was really good. And I want to also show the project slide. I think that'll be very helpful.
Thank you, Director, and I apologize for the technical difficulties.
No.
It's common up here. You know, that Windows likes to do its own thing sometimes.
Okay, he's bringing it up real quick. Just give us a minute.
Thanks, everybody, for your patience. That's
1 second.
in the gallery or attending the meeting or watching on the live stream. We are working through some technical difficulties and we'll be getting going in just a moment.
I don't know. Me too. There you go. I don't do anything more. Yeah, leave it there. There we go. Yep. And I'm gonna pull this out. Yeah, we'll see. Hold on to that. Let's see if it comes up. Okay. Yeah, but I'm waiting for it to, you need to do something?
Do we need to see if there's anybody with ITS in the hallway? So again, folks, we are working through some technical difficulties. We had a Windows auto update cycle during the middle of our presentation. So we are trying to get the slides back on the screen for everyone, and we will jump back into the meeting as soon as we have that accomplished.
I did, however, beat Robbie's grandson at singing the Star Spangled Banner at the Sounds game on Saturday night. I was much louder than he was. Yes, he's 5, but it was still fun. I don't know where. Who did?
Councilmember Cash, you're recognized.
I'm just wondering if there are questions or comments that we could use this time while we're waiting to do some of that.
A good point. I was hoping this would be like a 1 minute thing, and it's no longer like a 1 minute thing. So, Director, would you
I'm
be okay
fine.
with
I'm
taking
fine
a
with that, and
question
then
or
when it
two
comes-
while the
Yes,
team
sir.
gets the slides back up? Okay, thank you for that suggestion, Councilmember Cash, and I'll go to you first. I see your hand up, so you're recognized.
Thanks. I'm just thinking as we've been going through this about the desire to connect more and align, and we've got this great meeting. I really appreciate you getting this together and appreciate everybody that came from all the different groups. And I'm just thinking about, like, I'm guessing, like sometimes we have commission members that are like we have the Historic Commission, we have a liaison between the Historic Commission and the Historic Zoning Commission. And like, for example, we have a council member that's on traffic and parking. So that person is kind of a liaison to the council. And I'm just wondering if there are thoughts of like, I don't want to create some really crazy like diagram, but I mean, it just seems like a lot of BPAC stuff and Vision Zero stuff like should overlap or should be aware of. So like what possibilities are to have like one person from BPAC on Vision Zero or vice versa. And also you named 3 different staff people in charge of each one. I'm wondering if there's coordination between those 3 staff people, if they like once a month or once a quarter get together and say, here's some key takeaways from my group, here's some key takeaways from my group, and maybe even invite, I know time is finite, but maybe even invite the chairs from those commissions or committees. And I'm just kind of throwing ideas out there how we could keep this momentum of overlap and better dialogue going.
No, it was up. I don't know where.
Thanks.
I'll address it first if you'd like, because the NDOT team's still working on getting their visuals up. I really like the idea of at least having periodic coordination of chairs and potentially the staff assigned to those relevant committees. I think it's going to be from this seat. I don't want to be programmatic about how Councilmember Evan Siegel will be approaching this question, but I know that she was very excited about this meeting and she's disappointed that she could not be here, and she will be watching it. So all of the discussion, all the ideas, all the suggestions, she will be taking into consideration. And as well, we'll be selecting a new Traffic and Parking Commission representative at the next council meeting. So hopefully that coordination can continue with that member. But Director Alarcon, do you have any thoughts about that question of kind of how to structurally support coordination moving forward?
There were some really great ideas that were thrown out, and I really want to play with them all. And I always love the idea when there's the opportunity. I heard very clearly about, we do, for example, share a lot of information about design with BPAC that we should follow through on Vision Zero. So we are starting to get that better coordinated. I love the idea of maybe bringing in all the chairs together at one time and having a conversation. I think that would be actually really great. That way, if we miss something, they're going to help us catch it. And that's really going to be very helpful for us to be more effective and helpful. So I have no problem with that. So I did take a note on that about that collaboration. We do have folks that cross over between BPAC and Vision Zero, but I think it needs to be, there is a lot of duplication and an opportunity to get more feedback from the commission and from the committee that we would love to do. And so as we move forward, we're going to be getting more of that. But yeah, I like the idea of bringing the chairs together at least once a quarter to make sure that we're hitting the tender spots, I guess is a good way to say it.
And something I would suggest if we're going to formalize some approach like that is just be clear that it's chair or their designee, just because these are volunteer positions and people sign up for a given
Day and hour.
day and hour. And so if something's going to be happening outside of that scope, we want to make sure that the chair has the ability to designate another member to go in their stead. And then also just for this committee, Transportation Infrastructure, I had contemplated, requesting that VZAC and BPAC do like quarterly updates. Maybe chair or designee comes here and talks with us. As I was kind of working through how that would work in the last few months, we started steering more toward this one particular meeting. And again, I would just encourage folks to reach out to incoming Transportation and Infrastructure Chair and current Traffic and Parking Commissioner Quinn Evans Siegel, who will be running this committee moving forward. And if you have any suggestions about what might be useful from VZAC or BPAC in terms of regular reporting to the body, whether that's
Is it up now?
text included in the agenda, or if it's one of y'all actually come in and presenting for a few minutes with us. If that makes sense, I think that would be fantastic to have moving forward. I see Councilmember Benedict. Councilmember Benedict, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So general questions. This also might be for Ms. Sussman a little bit. Councilmember Cap had to leave to go get his children from childcare. So he had 3 questions before. I've got just a couple. One is the status of the East Nashville Spokes project in District 6.
I can give you a quick update about that. As you know, we are actually at 30% design. We applied for a grant, and that grant, actually, we were awarded, but it's on hold at the US DOT administrative level. We're hoping it'll get shaken really loose. So between the grant and then plus the funding that's coming through Choose How You Move, we'll then be able to take that project and start moving it forward. So right now, it's kind of in a hold status because of the current administration and their new policies at the federal level.
Okay, and then I know he'll appreciate that update. And then the 11th Street traffic calming, I know that was mentioned earlier by one of the members of the BPAC committee. I think that the 11th Street traffic calming, speed humps, I think, speed cushions, going in on that. Again, this is Councilmember Cap asked me these questions to ask you, so.
I'm going to have to look into that one. I look a little puzzled because I'm not aware of it, but do you know about that?
Mr. Purvis looks like no.
1 second, Mr. Purvis. Your mic's on. You're recognized. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Matt Purvis. I'm the council liaison for the department. I do not know that off the top of my head. I can figure it sounds like from what who had mentioned it, it sounds like that it is in the construction queue, but I will get a more definite answer for Councilmember Cap in the process.
If I may just make a note, the hope and intent for this meeting was to really focus on process and not necessarily a specific traffic calming project that has been held up or a specific intersection. I think everybody in this room knows specific issues in their area or in an area they travel frequently. And we could be here for a very, very long time if we had a discussion about every dangerous intersection in Nashville or every single particular project. So if we could try to focus on process and collaboration and ideas about moving forward, nothing to apologize for. I just wanted to make sure we steered it in that direction.
You bet. And Councilmember Cap threw these at me, so I just wanted to get them out there. So I think for me, the most frustrating thing, and this is true when I was first elected, is the speed to change, right? So things take a long time, and that's very frustrating. It seems to me from the NDOT perspective, a lot of it gets tied up with engineers. And so, we're waiting for an engineer review of this or of that, or let's go back and look at it again with engineers. So I guess what I'm most interested in looking at kind of the 80-20 rule, right? So like 80% of the things get caught up with, 20% of the time, anyway, the 80-20 rule. So what are the big obstacles that we have? I'd like to understand what are the big obstacles that we have that are preventing us from getting, having the biggest impact. So, and that might be too large of a question for today, but I would like us to determine, what are the big things that are getting in the way from us being able to implement things more quickly?
So I will tell you right now, for example, the funding from Vision Zero comes down through the capital spending program. It does not come into our operating budget. So when we are doing everything such as traffic calming or making improvements, we have to use consultants. And that is really what is making the process much slower. I will go out and put something. So I'll give you just a great example. Scott Potter, bless his heart, agreed to pay for a hawk for us over on 3rd Avenue. We put together the scope of service, got it out there, gave it to 3 consultants. The shortest list to have the design done was 10 months. And I went, 10 months. And I went, no. We cannot wait that long to do a design and put that up. We have to figure out how to make it shorter. So we put an RFP out there, which I think will work, but I don't think it's as effective as what we need as a hawk. And so we did that in the interim, but we now have worked it where I have moved things around so I can put a dedicated person on that so that we can get that done and get it out there. But that means something else doesn't get done. And we can only use consultants for that funding. So one of the things we have been slowly doing over the past 3.5 to 4 years is move stuff over off of the capital spending plan over into our operating budget, developing a multimodal committee within that can we can do the engineering designs in-house, we can sign and seal it, and then it goes over to Phillips Group, who will actually go out and get it constructed. And so that's why we've asked for, if you remember a couple of years ago, we asked for a striper machine and some people, and then we got that. Then we asked for another machine, and we got that. So we're out there striping because we were finding it was taking a consultant a year to get to us. And so we didn't want to wait that long. So we're still doing some of that in-house, but the other reality is there is so much that needs to be done. I mean, we're doing school zone markings that were never done. And we've been successful in getting a lot of that done, but we have 160 something schools, public schools. We have charter schools, we have private schools, and we want to do them all and get a uniform crossing up for the school system so that it's better for enforcement, it's better for everything, so we can get, again, changing that culture, getting a better behavior.
And I appreciate all of that totally. And I will say, when I was elected, we had Public Works. And then we had NDOT, and you were brought on, and there's certainly a lot of good things that have happened in the past 6 years since I was elected. I also wanted to say, Chair, I'm so grateful for all of the service that the folks who are here and even those who are not here provide the city. It's so important what you do. And so thank you for being here. Thank you for your work. One last question that I have, or just maybe a comment, is more, we built the interstate system in this country. Now, that's federal dollars, right? That went down to the state. But we did that really fast. And so I know funding is a lot of the issue, but I just would challenge us, and I do this to you
all the time.
But I would just challenge us to go more quickly. People's lives, really matter. And as you know, and we need to, act like a big city because we are a big city now.
Yes, ma'am, I agree.
Thank you, and thank you, Chair.
All right, I've got Councilmember Eastlick next in the queue. You're recognized.
Thank you. I've had several traffic calming projects in my district. We've got one that's pretty close to being ready to be implemented as well. One thing I've noticed, and it comes to the engineers, most of the ones in my district seem very simple or very similar. They're pretty much the same distance between the tables, the humps or tables, speed tables. Yet we use an outsourced engineering firm for that. It does seem to slow it down. I'm sure it increases the price tag. Is there a way to take something like that? We should have enough history and enough experience to be able to do that on our own, or it's really just rubber on asphalt, so we could move it. It's not like repaving or building a bridge or some kind of overpass. This is just simple to that part. Is there the possibility of cutting out the engineers, especially on the simple, one small street in a residential neighborhood, and doing that ourselves?
So the dollars for us to buy the materials, I mean, so yes, we do kind of have a standard form. If, for example, if we're putting in cushions, there is a standard form and it meets all of the qualifications, which yes, we can do that determination. But the dollars to buy all of the equipment that we need to install comes through the CSP. And we also have to then pay for it through the CSP, which requires us to have consultants or a firm to do it. We cannot spend CSP dollars internally. So I can't give it to, I can't, under the traffic calming program, it has to all be handled by outside sources because it's in the capital spending plan and I cannot use our staff to do that work. So I don't disagree with you. This has been an argument that I don't want to say argument, this has been a discussion that we've been having for the past 3.5, 4 years. And slowly we've had some successes of moving the people out of the CSP and over into our operating budget. But really a department this size and a city this size, we should be around 800 people and we're 500. So we're doing a lot with a little and we have to use consultants to be able to get the rest of it done on every level.
It does seem very simple. And I've had 4 in my district
Not disagreeing,
that are super simple. So there may be a need to try to find a way to make that easier. We do seem to be wasting money when it comes to using engineers when a 2-year council member has done 4 of them and they all look almost identical. I've even measured the distance between them and it's very simple. It's almost Tetris. So there needs to be a way for us to be able to move faster and save money by not having to use engineers. And very similar with a bridge project in my district, we were using an engineering firm for a $60,000, potentially $60,000 estimate of how to hang the lights. After some disagreement on my part, the people that we're buying the lights from are actually the ones that are going to lay it out for us, saving us $60,000. So we can do this. A lot of this, and I'm finding, and I think a lot of the other council members will notice, that a lot of times Metro's in its own way because of paperwork or something like we have to have an engineer, when literally the people on your team that are out there probably implementing it could say, well, this is just like the one we just did down the road. They're all 600 feet apart. And we have 3 of them wide, so that's the way it lays down.
I'm not disagreeing.
I would love to find a way to where we look at avenues to make this easier, especially on something that is as simple as the traffic calming plan on some residential roads.
And I would love to have that opportunity to discuss it. And I
Sounds
can tell you how much money we need to get moved over.
I'd love it.
That was going to be my question. Is there a different structural approach we can take, that the council can take to budgeting those dollars across the operating budget and the capital spending that would
Yes, sir.
allow more flexibility? And maybe we could have a discussion about that.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Not right this moment, but.
No, I understand. But yes, I would love
What's
to have
wrong
a
with this
conversation.
moment? No.
Yeah. But I would love to have the conversation because I've had this conversation with many council members.
I'm just trying to keep Coopin from talking.
Yeah.
And folks, just on timing for the meeting, we're at an hour and 50 in. We had 2 hours budgeted. I would love to give Director Alarcon the opportunity to finish the presentation while we have the screens working, because we don't know if another gremlin's going to swoop in and take that
Take it
from us.
away.
But I've got Councilmember Coopin and Councilmember Evans. I've got Councilmember Coopin in the queue then. Thank you, Councilmember Evans. All right, so we'll go back to Director Alarcon. We apologize for the technical difficulties, but it seems to be working now, so please proceed.
So what you see in front of you is actually a chart. So we do actually collect data and track it, key performance indicators. And of course, one of them, as was mentioned by the chair of the Vision Zero Committee, is to get to 0 fatalities. And again, 0 fatalities is a culture change that we all need to be pushing to get done. But I just want to share, for example, New York City, they have been a Vision Zero city for almost 20 years. And earlier this year was the first time they were able to report for a quarter, no crashes, no serious injuries, no deaths. a quarter, and they've been doing this for almost 2 decades. So it's a culture change. It's not something that happens quickly and overnight, even though that's what we would love. It is a continual conversation we need to be having with our community. And, you know, some of the cities, you know, that are having success, they have been doing this for a number of years, but we are having some success. So 2022 became the first year of our benchmarking for Vision Zero. So what you see, the blue line at the bottom is representing bicycles. The red line is representing pedestrians. The yellow line is representing motorcycles, and the green is representing vehicles. And as you can see, when we started in 2022 as our benchmark, we did have an increase in 23 with the number of crashes that were occurring with motorcycles. So we worked really hard on an education campaign with the Middle Tennessee motorcycle clubs to try to make the motorcycle folks more aware when they're out there, be more defensive in their driving. And also we worked with the state as well to do a self-awareness campaign that went out across the state, which helped us with getting a decrease the next year. And so far, year to date, we're doing good on motorcycles, even though unfortunately I received one today that has left a gentleman in very serious injuries. As you can see from the pedestrian, we've actually started with 59 that occurred in 2022. We had 54 that decreased in 2023, so we saw a decrease. Again, we saw it in 2024, and year to date we have as well. So overall, we've actually are seeing decreases in the number of serious injuries. And well, this is actually for fatalities. So I don't have the serious injury one. And we want to continue to try to get to 0 fatalities. So this is what we're working towards. So we wanted just to share that we are going in the right direction. So applying the 5 E's have happened, and they will, and we'll continue to do that and monitor and push it forward. And that's why we really appreciate the collaboration that we're getting here. So one of the questions that Vice Chair Mr. Gibbs asked in reference to where did we get the plan, what are we doing, how are we doing it, there was actually a pretty extensive study that was done, which is called the Vision Zero Action Plan. It actually started in 2020, which was before I got here. And when I got here in 2022, I was responsible for getting it implemented. And what the plan did is identified past data of where the crashes and serious injuries were happening at. And so that's the graph you see up here. So when we refer to the high injury network, this is from data that has been pulled that is reflecting where crashes and serious injuries are occurring throughout our network. And remember, I said 6% of most of the crashes are occurring on 60% of the crashes are only occurring on 6% of our network system. So we've taken, and in the action plan that we took to implementation, it has us focusing on these high injury networks because this is where people have died, have gotten hurt, and continue to die and continue to get hurt. So this is what we have been focusing on, and the dollars we have been getting have been targeted toward this plan. So ongoing charter safety projects, we wanted to kind of share. We have set up in this year in a system, we are charting everything. So a charter is any project that we're doing that's over $10,000. Right now, practically every project we're doing is over $10,000 because we're at a point where we no longer have gaps to just fill. We have stormwater we have to include in most of our initiatives that we're doing. We can't just go out there and build a sidewalk. We have to include the stormwater initiatives. We can't just throw down cushions in the street because we have to look at how the water flows. The last thing I want to do is put some type of vertical measure in that actually creates flooding in someone's yard, house, or backyard that creates a whole nother set of issues and problems. So sometimes we have to be a little bit, I don't want to say slow because I don't like slow either, and my team will tell you my answer is when do you want it, and I always say yesterday. But we want to also be very methodical about it, so we're considerate of our guests, of our neighbors next door. But these are actually what we've chartered over the last 8 months of projects that we got moving forward that are involving both Vision Zero and also regular projects. So it's pretty steady forward, and I would say these are pretty heavy-duty projects because they're touching on many different things other than just changing the street design. And then I wanted to share with you some of the active projects that we have currently going on. So this is stuff that we're doing all over the county right now. We have stuff happening. And so it's something we, the Vision Zero committee's been asking, what projects are you doing? Where are you doing it? So they've started working on this to pull it together to bring to y'all at your September meeting. And this is one of the things that we have managed to get done, but we'll have it in more detail so that y'all will be able to dive down into it from a Vision Zero perspective and look at what projects we're doing based on Vision Zero and what's also in the action plan. But this is every active project we currently have going on throughout the county. And with that, I'm going to say thank you. And I'll take more questions.
Thank you, Director, and thank you for accommodating our technical difficulties and answering questions and then jumping back in and now more questions. So I've got Councilmember Coopin and then the person sitting at Councilmember Gamble's desk. So Councilmember Coopin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director, and everyone who's here again. I know we touched on it a little bit. We don't obviously have to answer it completely in this moment, but I'd be curious to know what would be, and we've talked about this a little bit before, but for the public and just for the record, what would be helpful to understand better what dollars you need to achieve these goals, right? You've got a lot of folks here who really want to see roadway improvement. They want to see road safety improvement. There's a lot of pieces to it. I know that, to the comments earlier, we see 3rd Avenue, and I'm very, very appreciative. I know my constituents are with the time and attention that happens there, but my heart continues to hurt when I hear that something's pulled from another project to do it, and I want to get to a place where we can do more. So I'd be curious to hear, what would be a helpful way to share that or communicate that. I know there's a lot of, I think, energy behind this with the body, so would love to hear how that would work.
So I would love to have that conversation, but we would really have to go into a lot of detail. But we have been very thoughtful about what we felt we needed in a staffing level to be able to meet the expectation that everybody has. And that's part of the challenge, because right now, if something does happen, like Val pulls the team together, they go out, they actually do a pretty heavy investigation on the crash, the causes, the root causes. I'm all about getting to the root cause, because if we fix the root cause, we should then actually help reduce or eliminate any additional crashes from happening. And she's very methodical, and then as an advisory board, y'all hear about them, and they're heartbreaking. They break your heart. To go out and implement all of that, I have to hire outside consultants. And it's slow. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to make excuses. It is slow. And we try to push it faster. We try to get it moving. And when we can move it in, because I do have dollars in the operating budget, I try to, but Vision Zero is funded through the capital spending plan.
Thank you. And as far as like the rapid response after action, walk me through the process when a fatal crash or near fatal crash happens. Are you notified immediately, or what's that notification process? And, absent a council member's effort or a neighborhood's effort, what's kind of your process to quickly do what you can to make that road safer? And again, recognizing that a single crosswalk on a single roadway might be easier to do something with than Murfreesboro Pike, for example, but just kind of curious what that process looks like. I'm gonna let Val speak to that, and then I'm gonna jump on the back end of it. So go ahead, Val.
Your mic should be on. You're recognized. Please introduce yourself.
Val Martinez, Planner and Vision Zero Coordinator with the Nashville DOT. Myself and an engineer are usually the ones responsible to respond to fatal and serious injury crashes. So anytime a fatal or life-threatening crash occurs on a Metro Nashville road, MNPD does issue a preliminary report. I would say we receive them within a couple hours of the incident occurring. We usually set up about twice a month where myself and an engineer go out on site. We do try to prioritize pedestrian and cyclist fatalities. We try to identify quick build implementations. These, unfortunately, are usually pretty routine maintenance style. So signage, striping, markings, anything long-term that we would see the greatest benefit would get wrapped up into a larger scale capital project just because of funding. So I would say some of the most common quick builds that you might see would be adding delineators to create a bulb out, adding missing signage, relocating signage, clearing out anything that would obstruct visibility for drivers or people walking. But again, we have to work to coordinate with other programs of NDOT. So if there's opportunities through repaving, we try to jump on that to really handle some of these bigger, more costly improvements.
Direct.
Yeah, thank you. So, as I said, that we try to react as quickly as possible. It is a resource challenge for us. Val's doing many things, as well as the different engineers that we assign to Vision Zero. So to be more rapid, to be more, I want to say on the spot, responding even quicker, it's a resource, it's a staffing issue, and it has been for a very long time, since I got here and have recognized it. And I think many of the council members that have been here since I've been here, they've heard this already, and I feel like I'm a broken record because I say the same thing pretty much every single budget cycle when I'm going through it. I need staff, I need resources so we can be more efficient, so I can bring more stuff in-house because I know we can do it cheaper. Another great example is the safety zones for the schools. We got surplus dollars to do that. That's operating dollars, right? We based that budget of $400,000 on a contractor doing 15 of them. That was the deal, right? And they told us it was around $400,000. So we asked for that in our supplemental budget that we got 2 years ago. We got that money. We went back to the contractor. We got our money. We got the budget approved in July, but we couldn't use the funding until January. We got the funding the 1st of February. We got the contractor, gave him a PO, said, task order said, we're ready to go. And the contractor said, we can't get to it until next year. And I'm like, oh, no, we can't do that. So we got sat down, we put our head together, and Philip goes, I'll do it. So we worked out, like you had mentioned earlier, Councilman Easlick, we put together a game plan, same design, can be repeated over and over again. Gave it to Philip and his team because we had the striping equipment that we'd gotten a couple of years earlier. They were able to go out and start striping them. We're now over 40 that we've done, and we still have not spent all of that $400,000 surplus dollars, moving that in-house. And that's because we got the tools, we got the money, and we could go get it done, and it was in my operating budget. That is the key thing. It needed in my operating budget.
So because that was like a 4% allocation, you were able to not have to
Use a consultant. We just went and did it, and we still have money. So Philip gets done. I mean, Philip's a number gentleman, so he gets done and he gets through it all. And he's like, "Okay, give me the next ones. Give me the next ones." And the staff is going, "Wait a minute," and we're basing it all off the high injury network. So we're just continually to get it done until we spend all the money, and we've moved that in-house because we were able to.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple more questions.
Yes, sir. I see Gibbs back there.
We hear a lot about bike lanes, especially in my district, and I continually try to find ways to keep people and cars out of the bike lanes. I bought my own stop sign. I think I'm going to go buy my own spike strips and just start to vigilante this. Just kidding. Don't worry. But seriously, what can we do?
Liability.
I didn't say that. No, but seriously, what can we do? And I think someone mentioned this earlier, how we can put it in hub, but usually by the time hub comes out or someone comes out to enforce, it's GOA, that car is gone. And then the next time we know these problem spots, what can we do on a more comprehensive basis to keep these bike lanes clear, to keep the cars out of them, and to kind of have enforcement on the hot spots to really address it? And again, not just one-off, because maybe this car parked there and it's the first time and they're never coming back again. How do we make sure people know you can't do that?
So, I had a chance to sit with Chairman Catherine a while back, and there were two things that she had asked for us to do, and one was to put together a marketing campaign, and the other one was to put together a sort of like an education communication campaign. So we're working on that now with one of the members of the committee to get that doing. But they also wanted like branding, like Vision Zero has a branding. So we're working on that to get that pulled together. Education in this case, I think, is the biggest thing. I mean, I walk my dogs, I see someone parking, I walk over, and it's usually like someone doing lawn service or something. And I tell them, you have to move your car, move it now. And they're like, no. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. You're moving it and you're going back to the service alley. this is a bike lane, this is not parking. And it's education. It's going back out and educating the community, letting them know that it's actually violating an ordinance and they can get, you know, a $74 bill that's going to work against them and not for them. And usually money talks. I hate to say that, but, you know, one of the things I say most about Vision Zero is the last time most of us ever looked at a book was when we were 15 years old taking our driving test. Yet there are laws that have changed since you were 15 years old that is now on the books and you probably don't even know about it. We are not educated at the level that we should be, so we all respect each other in the roadway.
Thank you. And then what about looking at neighborhood-wide? So I've been thankful to have a couple of traffic calming projects in District 19, and what seems to happen is they solve that street and they move it over to the next street. And then they solve that street, move it over to the next street. You know, we see that in Germantown where Fifth Avenue got great traffic calming, totally changed the roadway, but now part of the issue on Third Avenue is a lot of that traffic that cut through on Fifth is now cutting through on Third. So what would it look like to kind of take these projects instead of road by road, more neighborhood by neighborhood, and kind of close the loop?
So we used to do it that way, and we were having a tough time getting everyone to agree so that we could actually move it forward and do it. So that's why we went by street. But we brought forth some changes and recommendation to the Traffic and Infrastructure Committee. What was it, maybe about 3-4 months ago?
A little longer, I believe.
Yeah, maybe a little bit longer, and actually have updated the policies so that we can go back and do that and take that into consideration. And the next round of traffic calming folks, that is how we had looked at it. So if someone's getting a street and we know there's the potential of that to carry over to the next and the next, we're taking that holistic look. If not, it's just that street and we're proceeding forward. So we are doing that now, and that was something that was recently changed, and we had that conversation with council.
Thank you, and I'll wrap up, Chair. Wanted to say that there's another piece to this public safety, or rather road safety and bike and ped safety, and I was incredibly encouraged on the way over here. Rosa Parks in Monroe is a substantially dangerous intersection. I see cars getting hit and bad crashes regularly. On the way over here, I saw a truck run the red light, which is a very common occurrence, and I just kind of shrugged to myself. And then I saw a cop who was in line on that street throw their lights on, throw their sirens on, drive around, pull them over, and address that situation, which I don't remember the last time I've seen that happen, and I know that's never, right? Never. And that's part of the efforts of this body, I believe, encouraging MNPD to do more traffic enforcement, and a huge appreciation to them.
You two had something to do with that.
A couple of us. But I think that's an important piece as well is addressing road behavior and dangerous things. And obviously that's not the topic of this meeting, but I think it's an important piece of it. And I'll just close by saying that, you know, I know y'all are frustrated, we're frustrated. It's incredible. I don't have to tell anybody how frustrating it is to have had a neighbor get killed on an intersection that we'd been working on for a year. And had met days before to address.
Yes.
And then to have what I believe is a very comprehensive solve the situation solution as far as the Hawk's concerned, and in the time waiting for that to be installed, somebody else to get injured. So it's something that, I mean, we're all passionate about. Yeah, I know y'all are passionate about, and we can't live like this. We've got to be better with it.
I don't disagree with you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And just to let folks know where we are 15 minutes over time now. We've got a lot of staff here that are supporting this meeting, and we're going to continue for just a few more minutes, but we are going to need to cut everybody loose and let folks go home to their families and whatnot shortly. So first I have in the queue the person sitting at Councilmember Gamble's desk, and I have Vice Chair Gibbs, and then I have Councilmember Isak has removed himself from the queue. So we'll go to the person at Jennifer Gamble's desk, if you would please introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm the person at Jennifer Gamble's desk. Olivia Rancine. I'm the vice chair of VZAC. And I just wanted to illustrate something that I feel like we've been struggling with as a committee, and I just would like clarification on, which is that a lot of our high injury network occurs on state-owned roads. And so one thing we've kind of struggled to understand as a committee is what NDOT can and cannot do on state-owned roads. For example, in our July meeting, we were talking about a crash on Murfreesboro Pike, and we were just told, you know, there's not much we can do here because it's a state-owned road. You know, however, last year, tragically, a young child was killed on Nolensville Pike, and a week later, vertical delineators were put up. We also had a TDOT member speak to our committee last year who basically said that TDOT is open to NDOT making safety improvements if they want to.
So we just continue to be kind of confused by state-owned roads and what NDOT can do. And I feel like that's a really important question, given that our high injury network and a lot of the crashes that are occurring on state-owned roads.
Thank you for that question. And yes, unfortunately, our high injury network is made up of a lot of the state roads. And as someone had mentioned earlier, those roads are now more like neighborhoods. And so we do want to figure out a way to make people move slower. What we were able to do in Nolensville was because the bike lanes were already there, we were able to actually do the delineators because I agreed at that time that NDOT would take on the responsibility of maintaining them, as where before the state was taking and maintaining them. So by that one change, that added additional workload to us to maintain, to create a much safer. But even with that, we want even more protection to happen on Nolensville because it just moves too fast. And that's the Safe Streets for All grant, is to do that demonstration so that we can show the benefit of doing even bigger and better improvements on that. Murfreesboro, we go to the state. Anytime we want to make an improvement on one of the state highway systems, we have to go to the state and we have to ask them. Murfreesboro is a little bit harder. That is actually a runoff for their I-24. So when I-24 backs up because there's a crash that occurs because of the speed, they use Murfreesboro. So they're not as open to allowing us to make some of those adjustments. We have, however, been successful with getting them to agree to allow us to make some safety improvements on there. So adding a sidewalk, which we have finished construction, we'll be looking at moving into, and that's including building in the stormwater improvements as well. So every single time we try to make improvements, it's a conversation with them. There's a process we have to go through. If we're going to do a lane diet, we have to actually do a study and go back and show it to them. We just recently put, protected bike lanes on Jefferson Bridge, and, a section of that going into the bridge actually belongs to the state. We had to go through and do a whole long lane reduction because we took a lane away, which actually makes the intersection flow much better in this case, because now it's geometry set up better than it was before. I mean, before it was like, good luck. I hope you don't, get yourself hurt going through this in a car. But now it works even smoother that they're seeing so much benefits out of what we did. But we had to follow the process, which again can extend the time it takes to get something done. Does that help?
Yeah, I think it's just like it seems to be different processes and so depending on the road. And so it gets really confusing, and we just are trying to find safety solutions, even just short-term ones.
Right.
And it almost seems futile, and I want us to be able to have a discussion without us just deciding it's a state-owned road and we can't do anything.
Well, I will tell you, we never ever accept that. So we have a conversation all the time with TDOT. As a matter of fact, there's meetings that happen on a monthly basis where we get together and we have discussions about improvements we would like to make on their roads. And that happens on a regular basis. So no matter what, we're taking it to them. And if they say no, then we're like, well, what is a way for us to get a variance? And it is a process, and that there is only one set of processes they require us to do. It's just lengthy to do. So sometimes we know what they'll say, but that doesn't mean we don't go and ask it. We are always asking, because they are for safety, but TDOT is about moving cars. And we're thinking multimodal in our city now, and that's what we're moving toward. And so it's a little bit of a different conversation that we have to be having with them from now on. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And I had Vice Chair Gibbs, and then we'll go to Catherine McDonald. Vice Chair Gibbs is in Jeff Prepte's seat. I think I've got your microphone on, sir.
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation that you made. I have just a couple of questions. So, for simplicity's sake, a fatality accident, give me a timeline of how long it takes for you see that there's a problem until it's fixed. That's one issue. Secondly, I'm continuing to hear about consultants. Now, I know that we can't really have consultants on staff because that kind of defeats the purpose, but is there a way to have them in some kind of a contractual basis where it's not a situation where they're obliged to do what NDOT wants? They do what is right. And I'm sure most of the time that's the same, but I don't want it to be a situation where it looks like they're just doing NDOT's will. So to have consultants, last thing is, when I was a police officer in Kansas City, if I saw an intersection where there were fatality accidents at, I made it my business to write tickets there because that changes behavior. I would much rather someone be mad at me because I wrote them a ticket than for me to have to go to their house and tell them that your loved one is never coming home again.
I agree with you 100% on that. And so I will share with you that we do work very closely with MMPD, and they are going out and have in the past gone to intersections where we've seen the largest number of serious injuries as well as crashes occur. And it has made a difference in the way people drive when they know that there is police there. But when there is not a police there, it seems everybody forgets. So again, it's about I read a study one time that says it takes 21 times until someone changes a habit. So do I put a police officer there for 21 days to start changing a habit and getting them to behave? But we have that at so many intersections throughout Davidson County. Super glad to hear that he stopped and wrote a ticket for running a red light, because that's what we need to do. And that happens all over the county. As far as consultants are concerned, we do rely on consultants to help us with doing best practices. I will tell you, putting forth complete streets was a new thing when I got here. And so we've been educating our consultants as well as our own staff about complete street initiatives, and this is the design we want. Some of the consultants have it down pat, and they come up with great designs and great initiatives that allow us to move forward, but they're overwhelmed. Every one of our consultants are very overwhelmed. Our consultants are the same consultants the state uses. So our Franklin uses, our Rutherford County uses. So we're all challenged to use the same consultant. I do feel we'll have some better opportunities here pretty soon. We actually put out an IDIQ, which is allowing us to look at qualifications, and we initiated that across the board, including folks that are not from Tennessee. And that's going to allow us to bring a lot more folks and put them on the table to help us get stuff done and move it forward quicker. And so we are finishing up evaluation of that now and contract negotiation. We plan on bringing that forward to council this fall, and then putting that into practice. And this is also going to help us with getting Choose How You Move done as well. So we have been taking initiatives so that we're not so challenged with consultants now. And so we're looking forward to that moving forward pretty soon. And then I forgot the first question. I'm sorry. Did y'all write that down so I can answer it? What was it? Well, as Val said, they go out and they look at every single crash that occurs to get to the root problem. Because sometimes the crash that occurs, like someone running a red light, that's a behavior issue. And I'm glad, and that takes enforcement. But if it is an engineering design, if it's something that we can do, a work order is created and it's put into the system, and it's hard to say. It just really depends on how much is in the work order system. I mean, we have over 500 work orders we could be doing on a daily basis plus some. It just depends on everything that is going on or what's happening. And as I said, for a city this side and a county this size, we should have a lot more folks than what we have. And so the team is really doing a lot with the staffing that we have. And we're constantly working at it to get better. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Director, and thank you, Vice Chair Gibbs.
So I don't have an exact answer of time for you, but I'll work on that.
Thank you. So the last person I have in the queue, and again, we're approaching half an hour overage on a 2-hour meeting, so I am going to probably say this is our last comment for the evening. So I'll go to BPAC Chair McDonald, who is in Bradford's seat. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair, and I'll be brief. I just want to make one final comment. I want to go back and thank Councilmember Coupin for his question regarding protecting our bikeways. This is really critical. It comes up a lot. And I can tell you when I first started riding in Nashville 10 years ago, I used to think that I could talk to every driver blocking the bike lane on Demonbreun and convince them not to do that. And I can tell you after doing this for a very long time, it doesn't work. I have worked with the police to get them to write more tickets. That also did not work. What finally worked after 10 years was putting in concrete. So I think all of this comes down to changing our streets so that they're actually safe. We've heard a lot about culture change tonight, but speaking as a cognitive and behavioral neurologist, it is very hard to change how people think and behave. And it takes an incredibly long time to actually change the culture of a city. And the only way that we can do this is through infrastructure change. You can't wait for people to change their minds to build safe streets. And the way that we design and build streets determines people's behavior. It determines how they get around, which modes they can safely use, and whether or not someone is able to drive dangerously and hurt someone. So I think all of this comes down to changing our infrastructure, which I think is why we're all here tonight, because I think we need to see these changes, these physical changes on our streets happen faster, and that is what is going to save lives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I'd like to echo the DeMonbrian comments. So I used to, for work, find myself biking DeMonbrian Hill 6, 8, 12 times a day. And whenever I had time, there was a pedal tavern company that used to operate out of the base of DeMonbrian Hill, and they would frequently park their vehicles and load their passengers in the bike lane. And whenever I had time, I would lock up and I would walk in and I would just insist on speaking to whoever was the most important person in the building. And they knew me and they saw me come in every time I walked in there, and they hated me. And they did change their behavior slightly, and then they just moved and they weren't blocking that particular stretch of bike lane anymore. But I definitely want to second what you said there about trying to change behavior and how difficult it is, and how effective physical infrastructure can be. So I really want to thank everybody. I want to thank NDOT. I want to thank all the committee and commission members who serve our city and made time to be here this evening. I want to give a big thanks to staff for supporting this meeting so effectively with the great color-coordinated cards for all the attendees. And just as well, I've really enjoyed serving as the chair of this committee for the last 2 years. It's been a huge honor. I want to thank the vice mayor for the opportunity and for all the support that staff has given this committee in tackling some really big issues over the last couple of years. And this was super productive. And you know, this committee, the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, doesn't necessarily have to be the convener of these discussions, but I do think these discussions are really, really positive. And I think that bringing in Choose How You Move advisory and Choose How You Move staff from the mayor's office into these conversations would be really helpful moving forward. So I appreciate that suggestion. And I just look forward to when we can get folks together again. And again, thanks everybody so much for being here. So have a great night. Thank you.